I mean, what can be said about Nigel Moore that hasn't already been said? If you don't know Nigel, Nigel's the CEO and founder of the Tech Tribe. He's a real, if I can say, and I mean this as a compliment, Nigel, he's a real paternal figure in the channel to me. He creates a lot of value and encouragement to MSPs and vendors alike. He's been around for a long, long time. He's been interviewed on so many of these podcasts that I went into this going, first of all, I just want to talk to this dude because I love him. I love talking to him. I love what he has to say. I've heard him speak a lot. So I tried to get to some questions that other people maybe haven't asked him. Some of the stories that he hasn't given, recited over and over again. So if you know Nigel, I think this is going to be exciting for you. If you don't know Nigel, what's so cool about him is his intense commitment to really helping his customers. And that translates not only in just the way he runs the Tech Tribe, but I think it really translates to why his MSP was so successful. So this guy, huge inspiration. There's always something to be learned when you get to sit down with people like this. So I will get out of the way and start the interview. Let's get into it. Nigel, my friend, we did it. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, we haven't spoken in person since ScaleCon, and that was a blast, wasn't it?
That was a heck of a lot of fun. Hanging out with all of you guys and taking my daughter across with me as well, and seeing her up there was one of my proud dad moments. That was a bunch of fun over there.
Yeah, it was pretty cool sitting on a panel with your daughter interviewing me.
Yeah, you were on the panel too. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
with
it was
her
fun.
Asking me questions.
We still talk about that out here.
Yeah.
I was definitely standing down the back row, having one of those proud dad moments, which was awesome.
It's so cool, man. Listen, I know I reached out to you originally to say, hey, I want to do this podcast. And sometimes when I reach out to guests, I say, pitch me a couple of ideas of things you might want to talk about. And I didn't actually do that with you because I'm like, I don't think we're going to have a hard time coming up with things to talk about. But I've heard a lot of your interviews, and I feel like a lot of people who get interviewed a lot, and I would kind of include myself in that category. They know that there's certain stories that you tell over and over again. They're good stories, that you're tentpole stories, but it'd be nice for the people who've heard you all over the place, who might have found this podcast because they're listening to you, to get something a little fresh.
I've only got 2 stories. Right. Made a lot of mistakes and did something with it.
Yeah, right. I mean, for anybody who doesn't know who you are, can you give us the quick here of why are you on the MSP Sales Podcast?
Good question. Why?
Obviously, you're the CEO and founder of the Tech Tribe, but talk to us just real quick highlights here of your history of sales and selling managed services in your experience in the industry.
Yeah, right. So I had my own MSP I think I had it for 8 years, and I was running it for someone else for 6 years before that. And started off as the typical tech and went into doing sales and account management and becoming the general manager of the thing after some time, and then owning it myself. And all through that time, sales to me was the scariest part of the entire journey. Like, I was a typical wildly introverted tech geek, and the opportunities where I had to go and speak to a client, I used to have to only wear white shirts because I sweated like a pig. Just thinking that I'd have to go in and tell a client that they got to spend money. And I grew up in not on the streets poor, but we were pretty poor. We used to go and get our toys from the local rubbish dump. Was my favorite place to go and scrummage for toys. And so I had these horrible money beliefs in my world. And in my first many years, I'm going to say probably my first decade in the MSP or IT space, I projected all of those money beliefs and everything onto my clients as I went through that sales process. And so what I realized in hindsight, I realized eventually when a client pulled me up on it, was a horrible disservice to my clients, because they often weren't driven by price or driven by the lowest dollar or driven by trying to save money all the time. They were driven by innovation and having the latest stuff and protecting their business and their network and reliability and all that sort of stuff. And price was a very, very, very low thing on their buying parameters in there. And so I went through that whole journey of learning to figure out how to sell or how to be myself when selling, and go through the process of upgrading my skills and my confidence and my mindset around all that stuff to be able to go out and have confident conversations with clients, selling them without letting my own stupid money beliefs get in the way, and selling them on what they needed and coming away feeling good about that because I actually am doing them a service. Like as the saying goes, and you probably know the saying better than me, I'm going to butcher it, but selling really is a service to your clients. It's not you. A lot of people have that misnomer that when I do sales, it's kind of this bad thing. I'm being lumped into the used car salesman lot, and the reality is, good sales of good quality products is the exact opposite of that. You're actually doing a service to your clients that really need your product, and you're helping them make the right decision and the best decision for them to come and get whatever product or service you're offering, which in the cyberspace is one of the most critical services that any business out there should and could have.
Right. And there's so much in there. Like I remember I was like 20. 21, 23, something like that. And I got this sales job and I was selling working capital to businesses, but it was a very expensive debt instrument. It's a specific type of basically you can't get cash anywhere and you need cash now.
Loan shark, you mean?
Sure. Yeah, pretty much. That's what we did. But I will say that it was, I guess you could call it predatory, but it wasn't predatory. It was for I need cash right now. I'm qualified for cash from the bank, but the bank will give me money in 7 days and I need money in 24 hours. I need $100,000 cash tomorrow.
Right.
And so we would sell, basically the way we sold it was hey, it's the same cost as a conventional loan, but since it's a much shorter payback term, it's the same fixed cost. So instead of paying that much fixed price over 20 years, you paid over 6 months. So I loan you $100,000 and in 6 months you give me back $136,000.
Yay. We're in the wrong industry.
And
right? Hard money lending.
And you pay me every day, $800 a day comes out of your checking account automatically, right? So that was a product that I'm really glad I sold that product, because there'd be times when you're selling to people and you're like, don't buy this, man. Just go out of business or just lay people off or take this is a bad bet for you. But I was pinching other people's pennies on their behalf.
Yeah, 100%.
Because to me, even $1,000 was a ton of money, right? So to think I could save that guy. Do I really want to mark this up an extra $1,000? But $1,000 is, to the average business, is not that much money. I'll say another way, that they have a much different perspective on that amount of money. You know what I'm saying? So you start thinking like a 23-year-old kid about a 35-person business's budget, and you start trying to compare the numbers apples to apples, and then I'm making these huge mistakes of telling people that they can't afford something that they can afford because of my own issues about those amounts.
Yeah. Exactly. Been there, done that, wear the scars as a badge of honor.
Right. So this is something that comes up with my coaching clients a lot. In fact, I had a conversation today. We were doing this belief day. We're talking about what's something you believe about yourself that's hindering your ability to succeed. Where did it come from? And then how could we turn that limiting belief into an empowering belief? And this comes up all the time. I had one guy who said, I haven't raised my price in 15 years because I just don't think I'm worth it. And I really, that's why he came to me. I need help with this. But what was that journey practically? What was that actually like for you to go from what you described to a guy who has to sell the right product, even if it's the most expensive?
I'm still on that journey. I think we all are, and we're all always on it as a continuum forever, right? You're getting that confidence to be able to charge what you can charge out there appropriately. And in my MSP space, I actually, my real come to mama moment was when a client kicked me in the butt for not charging enough in there. And I was very blessed to have some incredibly amazing clients out there who were running. This particular lady was running a nearly $100 million business, and we'd become really close personal friends. And she was the one that helped me start my MSP as I was getting it up and running. And back in that time, I still had these horrible money beliefs that I was making on her behalf of her, and her business was probably $50 million at the time. And one day she just pulled me up and said, Nigel, I don't want the cheapest. I want the best. My business is built on the best. It's not built on the cheapest out there. Please, can you reframe your thinking around this stuff and go and start delivering us what we building solutions that are the best so that they help us build our business, which is focused on being the best. And that was my big aha moment of, crap, Nigel, like, why are you trying to save her a couple of dollars here? That same process again. And so that there, she was obviously a mentor. As I said, she was a mentor at the time, and she was continually instilling in me that my worth was more than what I thought my worth was. And that's often, like, you see that often with mentors, is that they can see you and the future you and the potential in you much greater than what we can ourselves. And so I was very incredibly lucky and blessed to be able to have her beside me on my journey in there. And in the industry, we've got people like you now, and all the mentors and coaches and gurus, whatever you want to call the people that serve MSPs in our space, that our job really is to help MSPs see themselves bigger than what they see themselves out there, and to give them that confidence and to help them stretch their imagination of what they can do and stretch their thinking of what they can do. And it really comes down to, like, the number one reason that I see that all of us undercharge is that we have that. A lot of our industry came from a background of being the kids that were bullied and harassed in school, right? We're the nerds, and we're the ones that were always playing computers at school, and all the cool kids, the jocks and the football players and whatever, always like beating on us and kicking us up the butt and making us feel a little bit worthless compared to everybody else. And so that sense of worth then translates into our business and what we feel comfortable going out and charging. But on the flip side, it's also it's an incredibly amazing thing, because our industry doesn't have this history of overcharging clients like a bunch of other industries do. We've got a deep empathy for wanting to do good all the time, and the typical MSP owner really has a couple of different primary drivers that drive them to do what they want to do. But number one is the help of other people. And that's a much higher primary driver in their world than the love of making money for most MSP owners. And so you see it in the MSP community, and that most MSPs out there are more than happy to help their fellow competitors more than compared to focusing on their own profits. They show up in communities like ours and all the communities around the world, loving helping their other fellow colleague, or you could call them competitors out there. And that is a good thing in the grand scheme of things, because that love goes out to all their clients and their staff, and they just want to do good with people and look after people. And there is people that are there for just the profit, and that has its place. But I think on the whole, our industry's got this amazing heart to it that is there to look after the people that come along to those businesses as well, the clients, the staff, the suppliers, the everyone else that comes along for the ride.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I want to circle something you said, because you have this really cool disarming way of talking about this topic, and maybe it's your very lovable accent to the average American.
That's probably all it is.
That you could get away with it. No, but you bring up the topic of like self-worth so matter-of-factly, and a lot of people, maybe because it's just uncomfortable, or maybe they've drawn that correlation, but they've never really talked about it in a professional setting. They have a hard time letting those two things touch. How my business runs and who I am as a professional and who I am as a person, they're the same. It's the same thing. Or, you know what I mean? In terms of who I perceive myself to be as a professional and who I perceive myself to be as a person. But I guess the question is, how did you get so comfortable being that vulnerable and bringing that topic to the conversation?
Honestly, practice. Right. So I remember a stage in my journey when I was in my MSP and I was struggling like crazy. I hated my life. I didn't have a single person that I'd ever spoken to about the journey, the struggles that I've been going through. And so it had all been bottling up inside. And again, my childhood family, we were a very, there was love in the family. My mum and dad looked after us incredibly and did everything they possibly could do for us. But, we weren't a very emotionally driven family. The emotions weren't talked about. Love wasn't talked about. Digging into self-worth and all those things just weren't talked about. It was transactional. Like we often lived on the surface. Nowadays, I'm very lucky that my mum and I have a much, much, much deeper relationship. But when we were kids, it just was kind of transactional. And so I went through my first years of my business with that transactional thing of just keep everything inside, bottle everything inside. My mum's parents both died when she was 19 and they were 52. And so she had to became this very stoic character, looking after herself, not showing any emotions on the surface, because she had to fend for herself from a fairly early age. And that bled across to us as kids, in that it's, hey, fend for yourself. Like, don't ask for help. Like, there was no thought of anybody ever saying, hey, I need some help here, or I'd like to talk about what's going on. And so I lived the first decades of my life like that. And as I was in this phase of not enjoying my life or my business at all, I was just looking around for what on earth can I do? I don't know how it came along, but I stumbled across this person that was doing some some coaching with someone, and he was working with a high performance coach. And so I signed up with that coach and jumped on the first call. And he started asking me all these questions around, like, are you happy? And then all these things that I would never have, like, in 30 years, I'd never had those conversations full stop. And I'm like, holy crap, like, am I, like, going to talk about this? Can I share that this is frustrating me? And I started to slowly open up and have these conversations in a safe container or a safe space. And as I did that, what I didn't notice at the time, but when I looked back in hindsight, I can see like this actual huge weight being lifted off my shoulders, in that I was having that realization that I'm not alone, and that you got support around you wherever you go. And when you do ask for help and you do share these conversations around stuff, like if you're not doing good and whatever, the more people are willing to help. And the more, what I found was the more people are willing to say, hey, I've been there. Like, we've all been there. And I'm like, oh crap, it's not just me. I always thought it was just me going through these struggles, and everyone else that you see on the surface on social media, everyone's having a lovely life. And the more I started to get into masterminds and coaching and those sort of areas where there's these safe containers for vulnerable conversations and transparent conversations, the more I became comfortable sharing that stuff, to the point that a decade and a half later, after being in tons of different coaching programs and whatnot, like, to me, it's just matter of fact now. Like, to me, it's just part of me, is that I just share where I'm at and what's going on and what's challenging and what's not. And we're going through a challenging phase in the tech tribe at the moment, and I'm perfectly comfortable sharing it out there and telling people exactly what it is and where it's at. And that was the exact polar opposite to me that 15 years ago, before I started getting the confidence and the ability, and just realizing and seeing the safe containers and safe spaces do exist out there, and the benefits you get from being vulnerable in them absolutely far outweigh any of the ego that often comes in, saying, oh, don't let anybody know that you're not doing good, because then they're going to feel less of you. And once you realize that that's not how it works out there, then the world's your oyster. Like, it just becomes so much easier just to get that crap out and deal with it and figure out what's going on and move past it. And if there's anyone out there, similar journey to where I was 15 years ago, like, go and speak to someone about it. Go and find anybody, a trusted friend, a colleague, an MSP, a Brian, and anyone, to go and just start to chat and start to realize that people will help, and that most often, most of us have probably been where you've been in some way, shape, or form out there. And like, business is a challenging bloody journey, like a really challenging journey. It's amazing on the flip side, but it's also a very challenging journey. And so sharing it with others and being comfortable to be able to have those matter of fact level conversations around the mess side of running a business is, to me, one of the most important skills you can work on. Yeah,
you mentioned the word ego in there. I mean, oftentimes the thing that perpetuates the sort of pseudo-stoicism, or basically like the BS of it all, where we just don't share anybody, we pretend we're great when we're not great, it's ego. But like, I'm very fond of the saying, ego is expensive, because not only will it cost you knowledge from sources around you that you're not currently comfortable receiving knowledge from, but it can cost you years, it can cost you decades of humbling yourself to what you're describing really is what humility is. And it, as hard as it is, it can be actually, the act of humbling yourself can be instantaneous. It could be as fast as, hey dude, do you have a second? I need some help. I'm not doing okay today. That's humbling yourself. And you could 100%. Save decades of turmoil by making a decision like that. And you obviously, I mean, I think you've been a guiding light to a lot of people in the industry, because your story, as sad as the parts of it are, and as inspiring as parts of it are, it's not that unique.
Yeah,
sadly.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? Like, in our industry, a lot of people struggle with you. I mean, you're super open about like the substance ways of like just trying to cope in the darkness of like, how do I
been raging alcoholic and stupid substance abuse back in the days just to escape reality. Like,
yeah, exactly. How do I cope with the fact that this is what life is?
Yeah.
But did you always have, because you have this drive in you, and it comes from, it probably comes from a lot of different places, but did you always have that even pre-business Nigel?
Good question.
Young boy Nigel?
Great question. When I was young, again, growing up in a family that was kind of the poorer side, we used to have this thing built into us that we couldn't go and talk to business owners or anybody that was like a higher standing in society, because we weren't on their level. Like don't go and interrupt them, because you'll be wasting their time and wasting their day. And so I had to go through many, many years of rewiring those beliefs as well. But back then, I think I was probably 18 or 19 where somehow I stumbled across one of Tony Robbins' books out there it opened me up to this world of, hey, there's bigger things that anybody can do in the world, and you can actually retrain your brain to do things and all that sort of stuff. And I also came across a couple of business people back then this was when Microsoft was just starting its run, and Bill Gates was this business owner. And I'm like, holy crap, can you imagine owning a business like that? Like that is like the most surreal, crazy, insane thing in the world to me. And just the thought of anybody being able to own a business was just absolutely crazy to me. And but I used to look at these people of, hey, that's awesome. I'll read a book about Bill Gates, but there's no way in the world that I'll ever be able to speak to a business owner, because we don't operate at that level. We operate down here. So the thought of me speaking to a business owner is just never going to happen in my lifetime. Like the thought of going on a plane is never going to happen in my lifetime. That was the thoughts I used to have as a kid. But these little things sparked, like they just sat in the back of my head, like Tony Robbins with this, hey, you can change and improve yourself, and just seeing these other people doing these business things. And then I guess I probably saw some people that had gone from rags to riches. Like I probably read some rags to riches stories, and it's like, holy crap. Like my childhood was actually awesome as a child, because I didn't know any different. I didn't have this contrast to be able to compare to, because we just did what we did, and we lived a very kind of siloed existence. We didn't have lots of friends. We didn't go out to things and whatnot as kids, because mum and dad just didn't have the money to take us out to places. And so I didn't have the contrast. But then when I started to get that contrast probably in my early 20s, and seeing other business, starting to read more books and whatnot, I'm like, holy crap, imagine that. Imagine even just working in a business with a business owner. That would be insanely cool. Yeah. And I was working at a local radio station at the time, just in IT, like just fixing computers and whatnot. And they used to buy servers from an MSP, or back then it was just a break fix company in Sydney. And so I used to deal with those guys fairly regularly. And one day they rung up and poached me, and because they loved working with me. And so I ended up getting on the help desk there. And the owner of that business used to drive a Mercedes and drive a BMW, and they were making some money. And I had like eyeballs like dish plates looking at this thing. I was like, holy crap, like I actually get to speak to a person who drives a car that's worth more than my dad earned in like 5 years in a row. And that kind of just blew my mind. But I just got in there. I was very seduced by the money, I think, then, of just the money, and it wasn't fame, but just the realization that they're having an impact and creating a thing. Yeah. Like to me, there's an art form to me to business, or to me, business is like an art. You get to create something out of nothing there, and seeing that this business existed, created out of nothing. And this guy was making lots of money and driving cars, and I love nice cars, like just blew my mind. And one day I remember getting to sit in the Mercedes, and I'm like, holy shit, like my life is made. If I get to sit in a Mercedes one day, my life is made. And it was just this series of events like that over decades, essentially, that just kept expanding my belief about myself. And people seeing, like, that particular boss in the early years saw probably more in me than what I saw. And then that client saw more in me than what I saw. And just, I slowly expanded my belief around myself through that journey as well. Until I got far deeper into the world of, you talked before about changing limiting beliefs to empowering beliefs and that whole process. And once I started to become aware of that whole process, that's when it becomes an inner journey. Then you don't need these external people looking after you all the time and bringing you on. You become that person that's like, hey, I've got a very strong awareness around where my dark spots are now, or where my areas for improvement are now. And it's really my choice to just shine a spotlight on that area and work on it, or keep it in the black light so that I don't do anything about it. And nowadays I've got a pretty good awareness. I'm going to say pretty good. I'm not going to say perfect, but a pretty good awareness around where I need to work on and what I need to work on next and whatnot. But those early years, it was just mentor driven, like being around people and slowly trying to just position my ways into things, because I was so darn excited about the notion of businesses that I would do whatever I can to try and figure out if I could get in the aura or in the world of someone, something, somewhere doing something with business out there. And so it kind of started as a little planted, germinated seed that when I was a kid, that I just saw these businesses owners as these amazing things. And then over the years, my confidence caught up, and my skills as well caught up with the ability for me to be able to go out and do it myself, which when I look back on that now, it kind of really brings tears to my eyes of how the journey that I've gone through from that thing, and that I'm still going through. Like we're still going through I'm still going through crazy upgrades of who I can be as a business leader, and a leader to our team, and a leader to our clients and our industry in some sort of respect.
Yeah. I really, obviously, I love listening to you tell this story because you, first of all, I mean, you're great at telling these stories in a way that you invite people into the story as well. And as I said, you have a blueprint in some ways for our audience. You started I would say as a kid, what I'm kind of hearing you say is you started as a dreamer, and you were always a dreamer and you were curious. And then as your perception of possibility started to expand, the dreaming became drive, and you went, oh, you could actually do that.
Yeah.
And, oh, I could actually have that. I'm really like one of the things that to me that's so inspiring, or inspiring isn't even the right word. It's kind of mind blowing, is like first generation billionaires.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
When you think about how much money $1 billion really is, a billionaire is 1,000 millionaires.
Yeah.
And like, you know, a Kevin Hart or somebody who did it by like saying the right series of words in a funny way into a microphone, but working crazy hard, and a lot of fortune and all that stuff coming into play. And now it's like, as long as an atrocity doesn't happen, his family will be rich until the end of the earth. You know,
exactly.
Because of one man's sort of journey. And to me, there's something about that that's very ennobling. That's like, oh, I could change what it means to have my last name.
Yeah.
And in 1,000 years, they could be rich because of what I did today. And not just rich, they could be whatever.
To me, it's like money. Like, I'm still a capitalist at heart. I love making money because it allows you to do good things and have good things and whatnot.
Sure.
But to me, the impact is the bigger thing, right? And
Right.
I think that's probably the thing that you could see run for decades and centuries and
Right.
even longer out there. And I love, because to me, that's the art forms or the artwork side of business, right? Like, you got the money side, and it's amazing to be able to build something and create something that makes money that could be intergenerational and for many, many, many years to come, or many, many generations to come. But being able to create something out of nothing, to me, is like, I look at business as my blank canvas in front of me, and I'm throwing paint around. I can't, personally, in art, I can't draw a stick figure for the life of me. My wife is an amazing artist, but I can't draw a stick figure for the life of me. But my business is really my art. That's what I paint. And to me, turning that into something that has a big impact in the world, and the Tech Tribe to me is having an impact in our industry. And that to me fulfills 95% of my wants in the world, is just knowing that I'm creating and painting something that is helping other people. Like, all artists want to be able to create and paint something that they look out there and realize that it's helping other people, and other people are inspired by it or changed by it or moved by it or whatever it happens to be for their art. It's same with musicians and artists and all sorts of stuff. But to me, it's the same for us business owners out there, is just using the business as our artwork to create and paint something that's having an impact in the world and our clients and ourselves and everything as well.
Yeah, and having an impact on you and sustaining you. I mean, it's just worth doing. But to kind of circle back, I asked you a question several minutes ago about drive. Have you always had drive? And one of the reasons I asked that is that I think the MSPs I speak to who have these very well documented, incredibly articulated excuses, right? Or they might use the word explanations, but it's an excuse, right? Of why they can't do something, or why they will never be able to do something, because here's my proof, here's my evidence based off of who I believe myself to be, and look at the evidence of what I have done in the past. Look, every time I've hired a salesperson, it failed.
Yes.
I tried marketing, it failed. And therefore, because A equals B and B equals C, therefore, marketing will not work. Sales will not work. My business will not grow, period.
Yep.
And, you know, you've heard the old adage, whether you think you're right or you think you're wrong, you're right.
Correct.
But they might use one of the nails in the coffin, as it were, in their argument, is that they might not have some secret sauce, some X factor that a Nigel Moore has. That sure, his circumstances maybe were bad when he started, but he had the right combination of internal wirings and things outside of his control, the cosmic alignment of his persona that sort of caused him to rise to the top, and I don't have those same ingredients. And I mean, I think, you know, I call absolute bullshit on that excuse. But I guess I just want to know if you have any thoughts. Like,
That we could do an entire podcast on that one. I think like that is such a huge point. And if I go back into my journey and I look back into my early years as an MSP, I remember one of our clients in the Tech Tribe, probably about 4 years ago or now or something. He heard me share a little bit of my journey, and he sent me a message saying, "Holy crap! Sorry, I always just assumed you just had a silver spoon in your mouth and you'd grown up in money and whatever. I didn't realize that you'd kind of done it from the ground up. Got a completely different perspective of you now." And because back in the early days, even when I first joined the MSP community, or back then it was the break fix community, really, I was the person that stood at the back of the room, scared crapless, I won't swear, but scared crapless that all these other smarter, bigger, older business owners in the room were better than me, and I didn't belong in those rooms at all. And these were just local Sydney-based Australian meetups of guys running 1, 2, 3, 4-person break fix companies. And I felt then 100% that I didn't belong in the room. And so I completely get it. When people are doing those things, I would have been the person with those excuses, blasting them back at that exact same point in time. I would have been the person saying, "Oh, like I'm just running a tiny little business. I'm not going to come back next time." But there was still always this, I'm not going to say it's an innate drive, because I'm inherently, I think as a lot of business owners are, I'm inherently lazy by my very nature. I'll do whatever I can to avoid having to do work out there. And that's probably how a lot of businesses, like you look at a lot of entrepreneurs out there, a lot of us are inherently lazy, and we build the business and keep growing it to be able to stop having to do a bunch of the work out there. But I had this, it wasn't a spark of, I don't know if drive is the right word. I think it was just that spark of inspiration of what others, like just seeing more of what others had done out there. And just, again, back then I had no concept that I would be able to go and be able to create anything big at all. Like that wasn't an innate part of me. It wasn't something that I was born with. It wasn't something that I grew up with, and it wasn't something that I was given throughout my childhood from family or friends or my environment. It was something that I didn't come across until my 20s. And I had to, the more I realized that I focused on seeing that spark and doing stuff with it, the more good stuff would happen. And the more I'd be able to prove to myself. Like I think all of us go through this journey of, it's like a set of stairs. We're all walking up this set of stairs, and each stair that you walk up is a tiny little increase in your confidence and your ability. Yeah. And to me now, I just see life as this set of stairs. Some of the stairs are huge freaking stairs that we've got to throw a rope up to be able to pull ourselves up, and we're sweating like pigs to be able to get up to that next stair. But once we get there, we've just upgraded ourselves a little bit. We're now at the higher level in the world, and we can look back down at the stair below us and go, man, that was like, I looked at that stair thinking there is no way in hell I'm going to be able to climb that particular stair. In the early stages, it was like these little 1 centimeter things that I was walking up. But then you start to get hit, like the world, the universe, whatever you want it to be, starts to throw bigger stairs at you, and you look at them and you tackle them. And we all have choices every day to make. Am I going to go towards that scary, crazy, big leap of faith that I got to take to be able to get up that stair there by throwing a rope up and dragging myself up and huffing and puffing or whatever? Or do I just stay on my current stair and just be comfortable and happy where I am? And sometimes, me included, we do tend to stay on the current stair. There's a few times where I've stayed on current stairs for years at a time, seeing the other stair, like the bigger stair in front of me every single day, looking at it every single day, thinking, no, too big for me, too scary for me. I can't do it. My world is like, I'm not like all these other people that climb that stair are just got better environment than me, better whatever it happens, like better upbringing than me, better family than me, more money than me, like all that sort of stuff. But as I've learned through the world, and I think this is probably, I'm going to say this is one of my, I'm not going to call it a secret power or a superpower, but it's one of my highest ROI things that I do is I just look for where those stairs, like the next big stair is, and I look at it and I kind of I analyze and I get comfortable with it. Like what is this stair? Like what is the next step for me in my journey? And what does it take to get there? And what are the things that I'm going to have to do to be able to get there? And who is the human that I'm going to have to become to be able to climb up that next stair and stand on the top of it, realizing that I've conquered that next step? And I spend time in that. And then most of the time, I then just start climbing, right? Most of the time. Sometimes I don't. And sometimes it'll take me, like there was a stair recently in my leadership ability of being a leader to people in our Tech Tribe business, that I saw this stair in front of me. I was like, Nigel, you've got to take that step up and be a better leader in this particular area, and the accountability and all that sort of stuff. And tough conversations, like having tough conversations, which I run the exact opposite direction for all the time. And that step stood in front of me for probably 12 months, but I saw it every single day. I'm looking at it every single day, and it's a pain point in my life every single day, but I just procrastinated on it for that long. I was scared. Honestly, I was just scared of it. But then the other part of me, the part that's built all those other incremental steps over time, goes, Nigel, you've walked up every one of those steps when it was scary in front of you. Every single one in the past, every step you've walked up that was scary, you walked up it and you got up it. This one's just another one. It's a bit bigger, but it's another one. And the reason it's bigger is because all those other ones are tiny stairs now, and there's no point. They're not going to challenge you anymore. And just look at this one and just get your ass into gear and get through the damn thing. And you'll go on out the other side and go, oh, damn, it was so much easier than what I thought it was. Like, where's the next one now? And it gives you kind of go through those phases of sometimes lacking the confidence a bit to be able to go and do it. But sure. I find that my biggest thing is just running towards those areas of fear and figuring out what I got to do to get through it.
And I think, I mean, you just mentioned this, like one of the things that helps, I think, to create especially when you feel like you don't have momentum and you're like, you feel like you're sort of stuck, is you need to turn around and look at how far you've actually already climbed.
Yes.
Because you can get crippled as a visionary by always obsessing over all the things you have not yet achieved.
The future.
Yeah. And I'm amazing at the future. I'm pretty lousy. I struggle with the present, and I'm bad at the past. Like right. I don't really know how to celebrate in my bones. Yep. I don't really know how to celebrate when I achieve something, because that means it's over, which means it's officially like slipped out of my. It's out of my rearview mirror, and now I have this huge blind spot of like everything I've ever accomplished is a big blind spot to me, and I'm just looking at like everything I haven't done yet, and that's one of the things that having, like for me, having my wife be like, no, dude, whoa, you just hit your thing, you just hit the goal you've been trying to hit for 12 months. Let's go out for dinner. I'm like, what do you want to talk about? She's like, let's just talk about the thing you just did. And I'm not saying
that I can't. I'm only thinking about the next thing.
Right. I'm not saying that to be humble. It's not a humility thing. It's really kind of a flaw of mine that
it is.
It really hurts my ability to, and it puts a strain on me that I don't need to be there. But to the listener who's going, yeah, but what's in front of me is a tiny step, and I feel ashamed about how small it is, and I haven't taken it. Like, okay, great. Well, look at where you started, because one day there was a point in your life when you thought, wouldn't it be cool if I owned a business one day? Yeah, I don't know if I could ever do that. And you started one. Did you know what you were doing? Statistically, no, you probably had no freaking clue what you were doing. And statistically, guess what? Everybody in the world has no idea what they're doing all the time.
100%.
So neither Nigel and I really, really know exactly what we're doing. And we've learned a lot of what not to do along the way, and we will continue to do so. But I think to look back and go, okay, there was a time when I could not do this, and I'm doing this thing now, and then just adding the word yet to all of your can't statements, like
exactly.
I can't do that yet, I can't do that yet. But that to me has been a really helpful, also in just taking the shame out of pivots or failures or whatever. Sometimes you climb a step and you get there and you're like, oh, it turns out this was the wrong direction. Like I thought I was going north and I'm totally I just went southwest. Oops. And so now you've got this great lesson, and to take the shame out of it, you just realize like, okay, well, now what do I do? What's the next step? What have I accomplished? I think it's great stuff, man.
I'm 100% with you. My brain works the exact same way as yours. A lot of us, you call us whatever, visionary business owners. Like I don't gel very well with that name, visionary business owner, but it's still, I think it describes what we do. I've probably got some sort of mental block about it for some weird reason. I'll have to dig into that one of these days. But I was lucky again in one of the coaching programs that I went into. I had never dwelled on the past at all. I live in the future. My default mode is to just live in the future, just like you. And again, that means that I'm often not living in the present. And the two parts of that, one of the ones was when I was working with a high performance coach, he taught me that notion of mindfulness and meditation. And I ended up doing meditation for, I think it was 7 years every single day. And nowadays it's become kind of a part of me that I don't do it every single day. It's just become a part of me that I'm always continually bringing myself back to the present moment, because my life lives in the future. So that really was really helpful, just figuring out presence and learning meditation just to be able to bring myself to the present moment regularly is very powerful. But the other part was another coaching program that I'd signed up for. One of the things that we do on a regular basis in there is they call the process the looking back to look forward process. And you start off the process by listing out, exactly as you were talking about before, all the steps that you've stood up on over the past 6 months or whatever it is between the times we do that thing. And I had never had any sort of container or space where I sat down and looked at the past. Like you always see everyone talk to you about, write down all the things you've accomplished. And I'm like, what on earth would you do that crap for? Like, I just want to think about the future and build the future. But then sitting down in these spaces where you're in a room with 100 other people doing the exact same thing and the music's on and you've got to sit down and write these things out because you're about to talk to your partners at the table about these things is very powerful. And it really does, like, it's reflecting on the past to be able to set you up for the future in there. And I was lucky to be able to be put in spaces where I was able to go through that process. And that really helped me realize how darn important the past is in there. Because as you said, often where we've come so far along our journey and there's probably a big step in the grand scheme of things compared to where you were 10 years ago, but you might be looking at it as a small step and you're looking at it with shame, as you say, and shame is the right word for it, where they're like, we can't do this thing and I don't have what it takes to do this thing. But then a little bit of looking back and realizing that all of those steps that led up to here are all much, like they're all steps that are, the recent ones are probably not much smaller than this one. You just got to step out of your comfort zone a little bit to do that one is super powerful.
It's amazing.
Sorry, I got you mid-water there.
No, I didn't want to drink while you were talking because I was like, that's going to be a good soundbite I want to put on LinkedIn. So I thought I would wait to take a drink. Okay. I think there's plenty of gold in here for anybody who's listening for, like, I need to improve. I want to be more like Nigel, which... Is that a weird feeling to you to know that there are legitimately hundreds and probably thousands of people who say that to themselves?
I think they're mad, although in the reality, like to me, it's very humbling. But what I really want out of that whole thing is I want them to just be confident in being able to be the better version of themselves, right? Whether that's because they just come across me who's learned how to become a better version of myself semi-regularly. That's what I like. To me, when I see someone take those hard steps and climb those steps, I can't think of anything more rewarding in the world, especially when I know that I've had a little part of it out there. And so it's super humbling coming from someone that, as I said, had no belief in himself whatsoever to someone that people have a belief in out there. External people lots of people have a belief in, and lots of people look to as someone that can help them get through this journey. I think it's super humbling to me. And as I said, super inspiring when I see them. It's funny, even people on my team that I mentor through different situations, I'm going through it and the teacher really is the student through there because I'm also upgrading my belief around those particular things as I'm coaching my team around those things as well. So it's humbling, exciting, scary, all at the same time. And I think if you're not scared in your journey, you're not on the right path. You've got to be scared a little bit at a time. We've got to have a little bit of fear. And if you can make sure that fear doesn't cripple you, it kind of gets exciting along the way. And it makes the game fun. Yeah, that's really well said. I just imagine, and I don't mean to embarrass you, but you know, you're a public figure, I'll say, in our little weird, dumb world. You know, you're a public figure in our very specific industry. And you are, I think you are really an inspiration. You certainly inspire me. Awesome.
And I wonder is there any version of this question you can even answer, but what's inspiring you right now? Like what do you think is down the road? What's next for you?
Great question. One of the things is that to me, there's no limit to the level of impact that you can have out there in the world. And so I'm being inspired to think bigger right now. And the way I've done that is, as I said, I mentioned briefly before that we're kind of going through a bit of a tough phase in the tech tribe. And the tech tribe, and this sounds like a horrible first world problem, right? Like the tech tribe is a wildly profitable business. It's got some great reputation in the industry. But this last year to year and a half, I looked at it and went, we haven't had, like, it can still do so much more out there. And so I had to do some introspection as to why aren't we and why haven't we upgraded faster than what I thought that we would in there. And it all fell back to me and my leadership skills in there. And so I'm like, right, Nigel, you got to upgrade these leadership skills. That's your next step in here. You got to figure out how to take the business from where we are now, which to 99.999% of people would be like, holy crap, that's an amazing business. But to me, it's like, hey, that's a good business. Where can we take it here? And so then I looked out around at people who are doing bigger and better things, having a bigger impact out there, and have created programs that serve industries out there at a much, like 10 times and 50 times the size of what we're doing, the impact of what we're doing. And so now I've gone and joined a bunch of programs over the last 6 months and hanging out with these people that are doing bigger things. And I always, like, if you were there when I did that keynote at ScaleCon, where I talk about one of the 4 things that I worked on was upgrading my network of people around me. Yeah. And so I'm going through another process right now of upgrading my network of people around me. And now I'm getting to hang out with people that are doing programs that are having impacts on industries that are 10 times the impact that we're having. And that's inspiring the crap out of me, seeing what they're doing out there. And it's giving me all these renewed energy and thoughts and skills and strategies and tactics to go and work on, to be able to take that to the tech tribe and help the tech tribe have 10 times the impact that we're currently having out there in the community. And I love that, because it's, again, scaring the crap out of me, because I got to become a different human through that process. I got to upgrade a bunch of things inside my mindset up here and my meat bag to go and be the human that's required to be able to have the impact that these people are. And the good thing is I'm hanging around them, so I'm seeing who these people are, like how they operate and how they work with their teams and how they interact with the industry and how they interact with their clients and all that sort of stuff. And so that inspires the crap out of me. To me, my long-term goals is like the tech tribe is an amazing vehicle to be able to have an impact in an industry and build something. And it's my art and my paint and canvas and whatnot. To hopefully one day be able to take everything that the tech tribe gives and go and do something even bigger in the world. And my other, I'll call it a hobby, I'm going to say, outside of the MSP space, is health and longevity, like anti-aging and longevity. And I've got a big old story behind that one as well. But I focus a lot in that as well. And I would love, as one of my next projects in the world, is to go and have a big impact in the health and anti-aging and longevity space out there. And so I've got that sitting in my sights for the future. That's always in seeing all this stuff that's happening there is kind of inspiring me. But I've still got another good phase or 2 left of me in the tech tribe as well. We're only, what are we? I think we're 7 years into the tech tribe journey at the moment. And we've gone through bunches of phases. I think if you look at us on the scale of a human being, I would say we've gone past the toddler that poos in his nappies all day, every day. We took off the nappies and put on some toddler's running shoes and started jogging a little bit. Then we became the pimply-faced teenager, and we're just coming out of that pimply-faced teenager stage at the moment and turning into a young adult that's learning his or her way around university. And I've still got another 2 or 3 phases. Like, I want to go through the whole 20s and the 30s in the tech tribe and bring that business through it and upgrade myself as a human. And it's required to go and do that as well, because those people that inspire me, like you spoke about before, are the ones that, like the billionaires or the people that are having a huge impact in the world, that started from nothing and were able to take their project the whole way through from beginning to end. It's a very rare trait or a rare scenario where someone, like often in the startup space, you see it, that startups go out and they have that scrappy founder that gets it from 0 to 1, but they're not able to transition from 1 to 2 out there. And my challenge now is, I've been able to take the tech tribe from 0 to 1 in here. My big challenge now is, can I take it from 1 to 2? Can I take it from that pimply-faced teenager to a person in their mid-30s that's kind of got a stable business and life and whatever in there? And so that's inspiring me at the moment, of seeing other people that have done that and learning how to do that myself and working on myself to upgrade myself to be the human that can go and do that. Yeah.
I so relate. I'm feeling a lot of those same inklings myself. Like, I know what I'm good at. I have a pretty robust sense of self from a lot of work that I've done. Like, I have whole chapters of my life that, for the purpose of clarity, I keep separate from Feel Good MSP. Not because I hide them, but just like I work for a nonprofit, which is like a very large part of kind of helping people clarify what they really believe, and it's much more woo-woo than what I do in Feel Good. And certainly the perspectives or my mindsets kind of, from one will cross over to the other. But I have like a billion ideas for businesses I want to start. It's certainly not businesses I want to run. Just like, I have great ideas for things that I think would be really cool. I know what I'm great at, and now I'm going, okay, am I like the way you said it. Am I the human that I need to be in order to take this thing to the next place it needs to go? Or am I going to start cracking the whip and pointing the finger and try to make it someone else's responsibility or someone else's fault, when in reality my business will always equalize to the level of my self-worth and my skill set.
Yeah.
And if I shoot higher, it doesn't matter how much clarity of vision I have. If I don't have the skills and the self-worth, my revenue will not increase. We'll have ticks upwards, and then we'll sabotage back to our level of success we believe that we deserve. And I love that you're just chasing the stars, and I think you'll continue to inspire people along the way. Do you have any let's say, is there a tactical piece of advice? Do we dare try to pull something practical for the MSP owner who's listening to this, they go, yeah, this is all great, but I can't afford a coach, or I don't want to work with a coach, or I can't afford a consultant, so I can't bring in a guru to come and do it for me. But I know that I relate to a lot of the issues that you described. What do I do?
Do what I did back then. Join other MSPs that are just ahead of you on the journey. There's so many amazing user groups out there, free user groups out there. Like, even if you go to an industry event, maybe you've got enough money to go to an industry event, go and meet people at lunch and set up a regular Zoom call with them once every week or once every fortnight or once every month or whatever it happens to be. I did that a couple of times, or quite a few times, more than a couple of times through my journey, where I just created these groups of other MSPs that most of them were a little bit further ahead of me in the journey. And I did whatever I could to be around people that are just those couple of steps ahead of me to inspire me out there. And if there was any tactic that I did over the years of that I would say had the highest ROI for me getting through and having the success that we've had, it's being around humans that are just in front of you. Right, they're just being around other humans that are just sure. It's awesome to be able to get inspiration from the Richard Bransons and whoever happens to be in the world, and the Bill Gates and whatever, which is where I got my early inspiration from. But then once I started getting inspired by people that were just in front of me, that's when it connected with real tactical stuff that I could do, because I could see exactly what they're doing and I could feel that stuff was within reach. Richard Branson's journey wasn't within reach. It was like giving me that 20,000 foot view of, hey, this is what's potentially possible one day, but they're still not within reach. The people that are 2, 3, 4, 5 steps in front of me, or 1, 2, 3, 4 years in front of me, that stuff's absolutely within reach. So doing whatever the heck you possibly can to be able to get around those people. Shout another bigger MSP a lunch on a regular basis. I've done that a couple of times over the years. Go and practice getting better at networking, so that when you're at events like MSP events, you can go and sit down at a lunch table and be able to talk to the table and meet those people. And if you find people that are those few steps ahead of you on the journey, strike up a conversation with them and build a relationship with them and invest into that relationship with time and effort, money and dollars to be able to be around people that are just doing that little bit better. I think it's the old saying, I think it's a Jim Rohn quote, the rising tide floats all boats, or you are the average of the 5 people that are around you, is one of the most truisms that I've ever come across in business. And so if I was to leave anybody with that, you can work with coaches, you can do all that other stuff. That is all fuel on the fire. The number one biggest thing is just get around people doing good things. Get around people doing good things and better things and bigger things. I
love it. Nigel, thank you so much for the time. Thank you for being on the podcast. Anything that you want to mention about the Tech Tribe, or anything coming up to anybody who might be listening?
No, we never promote ourselves, so no. If you want to check out the Tech Tribe, it's an MSP community, and everything's at thetechtribe.com. It's nice and simple.
There you go. Okay, well, I'll do it for you. You should go to thetechtribe.com, and I literally tell I'm not kidding, Nigel. When I'm on my workshops, people are asking me what I should do. I go, "Are you a Tech Tribe member?" And they say no. I say, "Pause what we're doing. Go join the Tech Tribe right now," because it's absurdly inexpensive for what you give away. It's absurd. I'm like,
we talk about money beliefs, right? Like this business has actually allowed me to play that one out a little bit more, because I was able to pick a low ticket model for this. Like, you say it's absurdly priced. We call it the most stupidly priced MSP program in the world now. That's kind of our public persona of it. But it's our strategy as well. But it allows me to play into that. Like, it allows me to not solve yet that step of pricing beliefs out there for myself. It allows me to just go out and do a low ticket business where we have to then aim for high volume in there. But I also get that, like, I get a lot of personal, what's the word? Like, it lights me up when I see people join it, get some impact, and go, holy crap, that's the best investment I've ever made in my life, in my business, in my MSP. And to me, that lights me up more than anything. So we keep it stupidly, absurdly priced in there. Also, partly because when I was a young whippersnapper at MSP, I had no money to be able to go and join all the awesome, amazing programs that I saw in the MSP space. And it made me feel horrible. And it made me feel that I couldn't do anything and I would never get anything. And so we keep the Tech Tribe at a price that's available for pretty much every single MSP in the world. And we do that as part of our strategy. It means that we've got to try and find a whole lot more clients to be able to make a profitable business. That took us a lot of years to be able to do. But on the flip side, it's turned into an amazing business and having a great impact on a lot of people, which is cool.
Yeah, it is. And keep it up, keep doing it. And again, I just appreciate you being here, Nigel.
Thanks for having me on. Thank you.